everybody, I'm Donnie Reed, here for Baker Airguns. Today, I'm going to tell you all about the new JSB Hades 15.89 grain, 22 caliber, frangible expanding pellet. Now, it took some doing, but I was able to acquire 10 of these from Predator Pellets pre-release. I want to thank Predator Pellets for supplying these for our testing, and I apologize that it's taken this long to get this video and corresponding blog out, which, by the way, if you go to bakerairguns.com and check in our blog section, you'll find a written blog report on these pellets as well as this video. You can find these pellets for sale at our website, the same, bakerairguns.com. And let's discuss these pellets and whether or not they are frangible, and just find out as much as we can about them. Now, like I said, they're marketed as a frangible hunting pellet, and that's a tall order. That's a tall order. At these modest airgun velocities, can you design a projectile that will actually break apart somewhat upon impact with an animal? Now, let's first define frangible. What does frangible mean? Well, frangible, if you look up the definition, means fragile. And in this case, it means intended to break apart. Will it do that? We'll get there. We'll get there. Now, these pellets do not have a typical hollow point. They have what looks like a radiation symbol molded into the head of the pellet. Now, one of the best things about these pellets, despite anything else you can say about them, is that they will fit nearly every magazine on the market. You can't say the same about every hunting style 22 caliber pellet. Now, these were released a couple weeks ago. Some of you guys have these now, so I might not be telling you something you don't already know, but we'll assume you don't know anything about these pellets. The first thing I'm going to discuss is what is really in this tin. These are marketed as a 5.50 millimeter head size and 15.89 grain. I am a pellet sorter of the highest order. I sort all of my pellets, whether for hunting or competition anymore. Now, I have a lot of equipment to measure the properties of a pellet. This includes my diamond scale. It's accurate to plus or minus 5/100ths of a grain. Now, I also use the Pelletgage, which I'll link in the description of this video as well. If you don't have one of those, I suggest you get one. But I took a sample of 50 of these pellets and measured them both for weight and for head size. 48 of the 50 pellets that I measured for head size were exactly 4.50 millimeters. 2 of them were a little bit smaller at 4.49 millimeters. That is very consistent and in line with the better pellets that I see so far as the consistency of the head size is concerned. Now, the weight distribution was not quite as small. I measured, like I said, all 50, and I'll show you the graph of the weight distribution, but essentially the extreme spread was almost a whole grain, from 15.45 grains to 16.35 grains. Now, you can see in the graph there are some places where around 16 grains is a large grouping, around 15.5 to 15.7, 15.8, somewhere in there, there's another grouping, but all in all, that's not too bad. It's better than a lot of pellets I see, even, you know, advertised as match grade competition pellets. It's better than some of those. Not quite as good as the best I've seen, but definitely adequate, definitely suitable, definitely acceptable. Now, all of this really revolves around, in the end, accuracy. Let me just make a blanket statement here. The JSB Hades is unquestionably one of the most accurate hunting pellets I've ever tested, ever seen, ever tried. Now, so far as the accuracy of these pellets is concerned, all of my testing was done with a Daystate Wolverine R 22 caliber, obviously, and an Aztec Emerald 3 to 18 by 50 scope. Great scope. Highly recommend the Aztec Emerald scopes. There's also a first focal plane Emerald now. You should check that out on our website. But when I first got these pellets and sighted in that Wolverine R, an Aztec scope for these pellets, I did it at our indoor range at Baker Airguns. Now, we do an indoor bench rest competition, friendly kind of thing. You know, you come shoot, you can win 50 bucks if you get high score, no entry fee or anything. But what we use is the USARB, the United States Air Rifle Bench Rest Target, which is typically, I think, 11 by 14 or something like that. But we take that target and we shrink it to fit on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and we shoot it at 20 yards, the maximum distance in our indoor store range. This means that if you do the calculation, the angular size of our target is 20% smaller than what you would see at 25 yards, the official distance, using the official target, which is larger. So ours is 20% smaller in angular size, but 30-something% smaller in actual size. So ours is harder than the USARB. But the point here is, using these pellets, the first time I ever shot them through that gun and got them even remotely sighted in, I shot a 247 out of 250 with these pellets, which is right now the record for the 22 caliber. I typically don't shoot the 22 caliber contest, just the 177, but as of right now, I have the record with a hunting pellet. These are extraordinarily accurate pellets. Now, we did stretch it out to 50 yards for you as well. And the day I did this testing was a screwy kind of wind. It was essentially still at rest at about 4, maybe 5 mile an hour steady. But there were gusts every bit of 15, if not 20 miles an hour. And you could probably see that in this 50-yard video I made for you. But I'm shooting 3 groups. And if you discount one flyer, which I claim is mine, that was my fault, not the gun, not the pellet, not the wind, it was my fault. If you discount that one flyer, of my 3 5-shot groups, the average center to center measurement was 0.42 inches. That is sub MOA, literally sub MOA. MOA at 50 yards is about 1/2 inch. The best group was actually the first group, and that was 0.357 inches center to center. This is unquestionably one of the most accurate hunting style pellets that I've ever tested. If you have a gun that likes them and it's powerful enough, I would recommend these for 50-yard shots and beyond at adequate game. Again, the caveat to that is a gun that likes them and is powerful enough to deliver enough energy at that distance. So let's get to the fun part. Let's get to the fun part. What will these do to your game? What will they do to an animal? Well, there's lots of ways to test that. And the way that we have decided upon is with a new pellet testing medium, which we've named Mr. Leghorn. Mr. Leghorn is a store-bought roasting chicken, a whole chicken. He's in a plastic wrapper, and he has his gizzard and heart and lungs and everything stuffed into the cavity in there. And we take that chicken and we put a layer of mink hide on it and shoot it from 20 yards. Why 20 yards? Well, I don't care what these pellets will do a foot away from the muzzle. That's not where you'll be shooting things, not where I'll be shooting things. So we chose 20 yards as an average distance that an airgun hunter might experience. The gun is average in the sense that it produces about 30 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. And at 20 yards, it's about 24 foot-pounds delivered to the target. And that's very average. So we're trying to be average here. Now, I shot the target, Mr. Leghorn, 5 times. 1 pellet was a complete pass-through. 1 pellet has apparently vanished into the depths of a black hole because we can't find it. We are going to eat the chicken, so we'll see if we don't find it later. But of the 3 recovered pellets, the average expanded diameter was 0.267 inches. 0.267 inches. So are they expanding? Yes, they are. But what about fragmenting? Are they fragmenting? Well, all of these pellets started out right at about 16 grains. The retained weights of these 3 pellets were 13.95 grain, 15.35 grain, and 16.05 grain. I think that one did not fragment and might have had a little bit of Mr. Leghorn stuck in it, which is to account for the slightly increased weight. But do these pellets expand, deform, and fragment? Well, our testing says that yes, these pellets do in fact have the tendency to deform, expand, and shed weight. 2 of our 3 into the chicken in fact did do that. So are they a frangible pellet? To some degree, yes they are. Yes they are. And specifically, it's these small connective pieces between the 3 larger petals of the pellet that seem to break off, at least the easiest. The lightest one actually did have one of those petals broken off, which is to account for its greatly decreased weight. But any way you look at it, yeah, these things are fragmenting for us. So Indeed, that is a legitimate claim, even at these modest airgun velocities. Now, we have we had an opportunity to shoot a groundhog with these pellets. This was done appropriately and within the confines of the law, and again at 20 yards. That was a coincidence, but the groundhog was shot at 20 yards, the same as the chicken was. So this gave us the opportunity to compare. This groundhog was shot twice, and we recovered both pellets. Now, of those two pellets, the average expanded diameter was 0.254 inches, just a little bit less than the average in the chicken. The retained weights were 15.85 grains and 16.30 grains. But again, this is partially because there is some fur and flesh that was intertwined with these pellets, increasing their weight. When you look at them, and I will include pictures, you can see that one, they look very similar to the projectiles we recovered from the chicken, and two, you can actually see some bits of fur and things that are still stuck in there. And that's to account for the increase in weight. They do look like they fragmented to a small degree, the same as the ones in the chicken. So, are these pellets accurate? Yes, they are. Extremely. Do these pellets deform and expand and fragment inside of a real living, breathing animal, causing immediate incapacitation? Yes. Yes, they do. They surely have limitations. If you hit a bone or something like that, you know, it might perform in a different manner. But they do have the tendency to do what they claim to do. Well done, JSB Predator Pellets. Well done on the JSB Hades. Now, as a side note, we also had a bit of an issue with some pest birds. These are small birds, and again, these birds were shot within the confines of the law and morality from a short distance using the same gun. They were shot from 10 yards using the Wolverine R and the Hades pellets. And I don't mean to be gross, but let me assure you that if you use a 30 foot-pound air gun and the Hades pellets at 10 yards to shoot a small bird that you intend to eat, you're going to be disappointed. There's not going to be much left. Not to be too descriptive, but any of these birds that were shot center mass were nearly torn in half. And I don't exaggerate one bit when I say that. So these pellets I would absolutely recommend for any hunting purpose. I am extremely impressed with their accuracy, with their performance. I can't say enough good about them, and the highest praise I can give them is I will be using these in my 22 rifles that like them from now on. These pellets for a tin of 500 are $21.99. That's a little more than the JSB exact, our standard venerable 15.89 grain domes, but it's still less than you'd pay for, say, 500 polymags or Hornets or something along those lines. So they're not cheap, but they're not the most expensive either. I don't know that you can do much better for what you get in accuracy and terminal performance compared to the price. I highly recommend these. I will be using these in my own rifles that agree with them, and I would probably recommend you do the same. I thank Predator Pellets again for providing these. I thank you for watching. Please check out bakerairguns.com. You can see the blog on these, a little more info. And of course, shop around while you're there. We have other older blogs and anything you could want from the airgun industry. We thank you for watching, and happy shooting.
Hi, I'm Dennis Baker with Baker Airguns. Thanks for stopping by. Click the link below.